Now, to set the formal part of the evening in progress, it is my pleasure to call on Mr. Desmond O'Malley, TD, Minister for Industry and Commerce, to address you. Mr. O'Malley.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you very much indeed, Cospoir and the Limerick City Vocational Education Committee, for your invitation to me to come here tonight and for your very kind hospitality this evening. At the outset, I'd like to congratulate the City of Limerick Vocational Education Committee and their sports advisory body for their initiative in inaugurating the Sports Service Awards, which are now in their 7th year. Their continuing efforts in organising the awards has ensured their success. For the recipients, these awards are a recognition of their great dedication and their commitment. It compensates somewhat for the many hours spent organising clubs and individuals from week to week and indeed from year to year. You've been involved in arranging fixtures and transport, raising finances, encouraging young people into training and competitions, and hiring facilities. All this at personal inconvenience to your families and at no small cost to yourselves. I would therefore like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to the outstanding voluntary work undertaken, not alone this year, but every year, by people who work tirelessly in an unpaid capacity. All of you provide an invaluable service to your community. We should all be concerned with the social problems of delinquency, vandalism, and drug abuse, which in many instances are but outward manifestations of the pressures felt by our young people and caused by the increasing pace of modern life. Sport is an ideal and healthy release from the pressures which modern society brings to bear on the population, both young and old. At the same time, it instills in young people such positive qualities as self-reliance and discipline and comradeship, qualities which will serve throughout life as guiding principles for responsible citizenship. It's only proper, therefore, that your efforts to promote the cause of greater participation in sport should be recognised. And I'm pleased to convey government recognition of the value of the tremendous service which you continually give. The importance of sport in our lives is a phenomenon which the government has recognised, and I'm referring, of course, to the large financial input to Irish sport from the proceeds of the successful national lottery. Up to the end of 1989, a figure in the region of £28 million has been allocated to sport and recreation. The major element of the lottery allocation will go towards, in sport, towards the provision of sporting facilities, and in particular the provision of a national sports centre, 5 regional sports centres and 18 local sports centres throughout the country, including in particular the designation of Thomond College as the national coaching and training centre, in respect of which the government has made available a total of £900,000. When completed, the centre will afford Irish sports people the opportunity to train in modern facilities of a standard comparable with those used by top athletes the world over, and will further enhance Ireland's growing reputation as a centre for excellence in sport. So far as the Thomond College is concerned, I understand that the bulk of that £900,000 will go on the relaying of the track at Thomond, which will enable it, I think, to describe itself as perhaps the leading track in Ireland when it is completed. And I hope that one of the consequences of that will be, apart from the use that it can be put to by young people in Limerick and in this region and throughout the country in their training and coaching, is that in 1991 it would be possible to have a world-class athletics meeting in Limerick to celebrate the third centenary of the siege in that year. And I think it will, if that works out, as I hope it will, it'll be, I think, a source of inspiration to many young athletes to have people who are as famous throughout the world today as a man whom we've great pleasure to have here with us in Limerick tonight, Ronnie Delaney, was in 1956 and for many years since. I'm delighted that he's here as chairman of Cospoir, which has done so much work for sport in Ireland and to improve standards. I'm sorry that the former Commissioner Eamon Doherty, who had intended to be here, can't, because unfortunately I believe he's ill at the moment. But I think his interest in the promotion of sport as a commissioner and now as a former commissioner is an indication of how important he regards it in terms of helping young people and getting them involved. And, you know, of all places in Ireland where happily there is a widespread involvement in sport, I think it's fair to say and true to say that there's nowhere that involvement is wider or more intense than it is in Limerick. And you know, the difference often, I think, between Limerick and anywhere else, so far as sport is concerned, is that if you talk to young people somewhere else, they tell you what their sport is. In Limerick, they tell you what their sports are, because frequently someone who plays rugby often plays 2 or 3 other games as well, and I think that that's a great thing. Rugby is often the thing we hear most about in Limerick. Glad to see a few famous former internationals down there at that table. And I'm glad to say that we have another international from Limerick playing next Saturday. I'm sure now that there'll be a Limerick man on the team next Saturday, they'll get on better than they did last Saturday week. It only remains for me to congratulate the award winners. These special awards are a fitting tribute to the efforts of the recipients, and I hope that these awards will encourage them and many others like them to continue their work in the future. Could I in conclusion say that one of the awards which will be presented later this evening is presented in memory of the late Christy O'Brien. I knew Christy, and I'm more than well aware of the tremendous work that he did in raising funds for charitable and sporting organisations. In fact, you know, he died tragically early, but in a way, I suppose, in the way that he'd like to, while he was actually running to raise funds for a charitable organisation. And I think that it was very fitting, and it sums up, I think, what this organisation and what many people who are here tonight are all about, of giving of themselves for others, and in particular giving of themselves for young people, in order that young people would be kept with their eye on what is good in life and diverted away from some of the many attractions of different kinds that are available to them today, but are so much less healthy than sport. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. It is now my pleasure to call on Mr. Frank Ledden, Chairman of Limerick City Vocational Education Committee, to address you. Frank Ledden.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Limerick City VEC, I extend a very sincere hearty congratulations to one of our many subcommittees this evening, the Limerick City Sports Advisory Body, for organising this pleasant function here tonight. And in doing so, I may add that in very many subcommittees that the VEC control, this is one of which we have great regard for. In the area of sport, adjoining that, we have Limerick Sports Youth Club, chaired by Councillor John Quinn. And I'm glad to note the Minister's comments on the amount of money being allocated by the government to sport in general in Ireland, and in particular to Limerick, and we appreciate, Minister, your endeavours in that respect. It is, as you have said, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Minister as well, the 7th occasion has been my pleasure to attend here. And I must say that my committee is very pleased to be associated with the tribute being paid to the various award winners here tonight, as indeed it has been in the past to previous winners. It also gives me pleasure to join with you, Chairman, in expressing my own personal thanks and thanks to my committee to our musicians here on the left from our excellent School of Music in Margaret Street for providing such wonderful entertainment here this evening. It is indeed, Chairman, equally right that those who promote an active and healthy lifestyle for our youth should get due recognition. The remittance of the VEC is one of developing educational needs for young persons. That is a role the VEC has had since its foundation inception. So the role is will continue in the many years ahead to continue to work for developing our educational needs of our youth. But we also see our work, and that which you, Mr. Chairman, your committee are doing on a voluntary basis as complementary to that provided by us, which is a statutory body. Everyone who involves themselves in the promotion of a better lifestyle has our heartfelt gratitude. And to those people who will not make the winner's podium tonight, we wish them success in the years ahead. And maybe this time, 12 months, we will meet them here again. But may I again, on my own behalf of my committee, congratulate the winners here this evening, wish them every success, and certainly assure them, as chairman of a statutory body here in Limerick, our role, our commitment, and our dedication will be to you, Chairman, and your committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lennon. It is now my pleasure to call on a man who in his own lifetime is a legend, and to whom we are eternally grateful for coming here every year. It is my pleasure to call on Ron Delaney, Chairman of Cospoir. Ron Delaney.
Thank you, Chairman, Minister, Chairman, councillors, members of the VEC, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, distinguished sportspersons. Gerry and I have become such good friends that I thought the least he could have done tonight in introducing me to bring me a little more up to date would have been to mention my hole-in-one last Sunday. I felt the publicity was beginning to dry up a little, so I better do something dramatic. Now, later I'll tell you all how I did it, but my closest friends tell me that there's a big tennis centre beside the hole, and it's a lofted tee box, and they all claim that I hit the ball off the top of the roof of the tennis centre and it went into the hole. But that's all very unkind, I'm sure. But I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to be so warmly welcomed. It's a lovely occasion, it's a charming occasion, where I meet again so many of my friends in sport, and I learn on these occasions of the great contribution of the award winners to maintaining sport in such a healthy situation in Limerick. I never read the citations before hearing them. I like to hear them because it's always a great pleasure to me to learn of the enormous voluntary effort that the people who are going to be honouring here tonight put into sport. The Minister rightly referred to the benevolence of government in making increased funds available to sport, and indeed the emphasis on facilities, the designation of Limerick as a centre of excellence. Limerick University. And I think that is all right and proper. But we still somehow have to maintain this voluntary dimension of sport. This is the fabric of sport. This is the real essence of sport. And while we want professionalism, and we must help the voluntary people by giving them as much professional assistance as we can, hopefully we can sustain this tremendous voluntary effort. And all of this wouldn't be possible without the benevolence of the VEC, the chairman of the committee and the committee members, without the enthusiasm of the Sports Advisory Committee, without the outstanding work of individuals I've often singled out. I'm not going to single them out tonight because I'm sure you want to get on with the awards, but we all know the individuals. But they sometimes don't want to be singled out because it is totally a team effort. But all of this together means that there's tremendous enjoyment for masses and masses of people. There's encouragement for the young, for the not so young, to continue to take part in sport. There are programs for them, there's information. And this is a very meritorious service to the community at large. Ladies and gentlemen, Minister, the people to be honoured tonight will be presented to us. I won't delay that any longer. I'd just like to conclude by saying what a great pleasure it is for me to be here again this evening, and thank you.
Thank you, Rania. I have no reason to be grateful to you because you stole one of my punchlines. I had intended to come back to that golfing achievement at a later stage, and I was tempted to say to those of you who hadn't heard about it not to accept any invitations to go to Ballyclough or indeed to Cecil in the morning if you're still around. Thank you nonetheless. Now we come to the presentation of the awards, and we follow the usual pattern that we follow each year. The first recipient, and they are taken in alphabetical order, is Tom Cusack, and here to read the citation is Martin Clancy.
To pay tribute to Tom Cusack, one must first look at a brief history of Richmond RFC, of which Tom is a member. Founded in 1928 in Pauline on the border of St John and St Patrick's Parish, it had tremendous success over the first 25 years of its existence. Its players were mainly drawn from Clare Street, Pennywell, Garryowen and the Pike. But in the mid-50s, all these areas went through a dramatic change when most of the old dwellings were demolished. The Richmond club suffered, and as a result of losing its hinterland, very lean years were experienced. And on this occasion, and on many occasions, it looked as if the club might go out of existence. Tom Cusack started to play with the club during this period. Certain members recognised that if the club was to succeed, that it must get an underage system moving within the club. Tom was approached by certain individuals in the club in order to organise underage football and set it up on a sound footing. Its players were mainly drawn in the catchment areas in the new housing estates of Rabogue, Linwood, Norwood, Granville and other areas around there. Tom was the organiser of fixtures, transport, fundraising, tournaments, visits to international matches for these lads. If one were to visit the club on Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings there, to look on the field there in the canal bank, Tom seems like the Pied Piper there, with so many young lads following him around the field. He knows the names, the addresses, the parents, the schools of every individual in that club. And over each year, I'm sure there's over 100 players put through his hands. To say that any boy born in the area of Granville there, Dublin Road, have first to be registered with Tom prior to going to the local authority. In the limited spare time, that Tom had over the past 25 years involvement with the club. He has also been president of the club on 2 occasions. He has been treasurer and has also, and at the present moment, is honorary secretary. He has been fixture secretary to the junior team and is also at present fixture secretary to the underage. To the members of Richmond, Tom is looked upon as a messiah, as it was mostly through his efforts over 25 years that rescued the club and restored pride in the wearing of that green old jersey. Thank you.
Gerry Graham is the recipient of the Sports Service Award for chess. In addition to his many activities in promoting the game, he is also an excellent player. So I now call on Mary Costello to read a citation for the Sports Service Award winner for chess in 1989. Gerry Graham.
I'm extremely pleased to read the citation for Gerry Graham for chess. I knew very little about the game until I began to do some research on Gerry when he was nominated for this year's awards. It is, of course, a minority sport, but we in the City Sports Advisory Body have always had the greatest cooperation from many of the so-called minority sports, and we have tried as far as possible to support them in any way we can. It is sometimes overlooked that smaller organisations can experience as many, if not more, difficulties than the more popular disciplines, particularly in relation to finance and sponsorship. Chess is truly a game which fits the category of sport for all. People from 8 to 80 can play it. Basic equipment costs £10 for a board and £20 for a good clock, but you can borrow a clock in the initial stages. So for £10 you are equipped for the game. It can be played anywhere, anytime, from fit and healthy to those confined to home, hospital or even prison. At present there is a part-time teacher in Limerick prison teaching the game. Next April, Michael Meany, a member of Limerick Chess Club, will represent Ireland in Germany. Michael is blind and a member of the Irish Braille Association, which is affiliated to the Irish Chess Union and is coached by Gerry. Gerry loves the game and was concerned some years ago that not enough people were being introduced to it, which is the lifeline of sport. So 7 years ago, he started the inter-city schools competition in secondary schools in Limerick City. And after a slow start, there are now several schools in the city involved with hundreds of players participating. Then, to introduce younger children to the game, Gerry, together with Paul Carey, started the Saturday Morning Chess Club, held at Flourished, but is open to other youngsters. And within this club, they organise events like Blitz Chess, Active Chess, Team Championships and Fun Chess. 4 years ago, Gerry decided to start an inter-firm chess competition, and this is now running successfully and bringing back many former members or players to the game. 5 years ago, Limerick would be lucky to host one major event in chess for the year, generally the North Munster Championship. But through Gerry's commitment and dedication, they now host at least 5 major events, either at provincial or national level each year. As Gerry, our chairman, said, Gerry Graham is a player of note, but at many of these events which he organises, he sacrifices playing so that he can control and administer the tournaments. Gerry has now gone on to become National PRO of the Irish Chess Union, in addition to his work in Limerick and Munster. Recently, he was instrumental in getting the former world number 2 Grandmaster David Bronstein to Limerick, and there was a simultaneous display organised, which was absolutely tremendous. Gerry arranged sponsorship for the event and took annual leave to act as host and chauffeur. Gerry, I suppose I shouldn't say this, but Gerry got engaged there sometime last year, and coming up to just shortly before a long weekend. So I met him on the Friday and I said, you know, surely you're going off for a romantic weekend. I said, no, we've chess. And he spent Friday night making the draw, all day Saturday, Sunday, until Monday afternoon playing chess. So obviously he picked the right lady. I think he's thoroughly deserving of an award.
As I said, the awards are being made on an alphabetical basis. The next award is for GAA. The recipient is Graham. So, Mick, if you would please come forward, and Donald will do the citation.
Mr. Chairman, Minister, award winners, ladies and gentlemen. It is not often, I suppose, when we make awards like this, that we can get a man who has given service both as a player and administrator, both at county and at club level. Mick Graham, as many people will know in the hall, was an outstanding player in his time. As a hurler, he won 2 county championships with his club Clahan in 1968 and 1971. He won football championships in 67, 69, 70 and 71. He was captain actually in 69 as a pretty young man at that stage. He won a National League competition in 1971. He played at midfield for Limerick at that time. He was probably one of Limerick's best players. He was unfortunate. It came to an end for him in 1973 National League final against Wexford, played in April. And you know what Limerick did in September? They won the All-Ireland. Unfortunately, I think Mick attended that match with his leg in a plaster cast. Now, most players at that stage, a knock like that would have knocked them out. They would have probably even gone bitter. But Mick bounced back, and he played again for his club. And in 1984, I have a recollection of seeing him playing a Junior B football final. And you know, it reminded me a little bit of the Super Bowl last night. You know the way they troop on and off the field. Well, when Clahan had this one, about 10 minutes to go, Mick took to the sideline as well. But he had made his point, he had come back. He had given a lifetime of service as a player. Not satisfied to give a lifetime of service as a player, he has also given a lifetime of service as an administrator. Now, most fellas, when they do decide to get involved, wait until they're finished playing. But when I point out to you that Mick Graham was chairman of City Board in Ogue, he was in 1971, the same year as he was winning county championships and national leagues. He was a registrar in 1965 and 1966, when he was probably not much beyond minor grade. He was an assistant secretary in 1983 and 1984. That shows the type of dedication that he gives to the game. For many years he was a manager of the Limerick City under-16 team, and when City Board in Ogue had their 25th anniversary in 1986, the chairman at the time said, he said of Mick Graham, he didn't always have the best team, but by God they were always prepared to go out and do their best for him, and it was the best thing they could ever for a manager. At his club, he's totally dedicated. He's chairman of the club in 1989. He's the current chairman of the club. In 1989, he was the manager of the senior football team. They won the county league and the county championship. He devotes an inordinate amount of time to coaching young boys in football and hurling. But that's 3 facets of a man, I suppose, involved as a player, an administrator, and also as a club administrator. But I suppose, like all good GAA men, he also looks out around his community. He's involved with the St. Bridget's Community Games. He's also chairman of St. Bridget's Parish Festival, which is a festival which raises money for various charities and associations within the parish. So we often hear people bemoan that players are not putting anything back. It's one thing I've always heard. This charge cannot be levelled at a most deserved award winner. Ladies and gentlemen, I present you Mick Graham.
Next award is for boxing, and the recipient is Noel Griffin. The citation is Captain Michael Egan. So, Noel Griffin, please.
Chairman, Mr Minister, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my particular pleasure tonight to introduce you to whom all would consider one of the gentlemen of Limerick sport. Noel Griffin, who is sitting down beside us here, has given in excess of 20 years of hard service to boxing. And as the Minister has already said, one of the sports which leads our young people, especially those in, I suppose, the tougher areas of the city, if you like, on the right road, giving them discipline, confidence, and making men of them. And surely this particular man is an example to all who follow him. He is one of a long number of recipients for boxing awards, but this particular man is the only one which his nomination was proposed by every boxing organisation in the area. There wasn't one, and he is connected with one in particular, but it shows just how popular this particular man is. He is a gentleman. He's considered to be most unassuming and a calming influence in any tight situation. Just to give you in brief a very short rundown on the positions he has held. He started off as Secretary to St John's Boxing Club, and after that to Secretary of St Francis Boxing Club. He is Secretary of the Limerick County Boxing Board. He is Registrar of the Limerick County Boxing Board, and he is also a representative on the Munster Council. This, all this work which he has put in has tied up his time, and naturally enough he has had to travel. He has had to put in hours which meant sacrifice to both himself and to his family. His wife Agnes is here tonight, and I'm sure you will all join me, because tonight does he not alone receive an award. I hope you will join me in congratulating him, because tonight is their 37th wedding anniversary. As Registrar of both the County Board and the Munster area, he has the very responsible job of being custodian of the medical records of all the boxers who compete. He knows them all personally, and as they do him, and has never had an occasion where there was a dispute over anything which he decided, and that in any sport must count as great stewardship for this particular man. Just to mention a few other items before I finish up. He has organised tournaments at both local level, which involved bringing touring boxing teams from the USA, Germany and Poland to Limerick. He is a referee well known throughout the country, available at all times. He was in the last number of weeks the chief coordinator of a competition in which a club were brought back down from Gerry to Limerick to compete in Limerick. This is done on an annual basis on hands across the border, and this also must be greatly commended. As a reward at national level by the Boxing Association, he was made manager of the successful Irish international team which travelled to Wales in 1989. This gives you some indication of the amount of work this man puts in. His family are here tonight, and I'm sure they're very pleased and proud of him, and I am very proud to offer this particular man for a very worthy Sports Services Award.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next award goes to the discipline of table tennis, and to receive it we have here Brother Con Higgins, and to read the citation Jeff Penny.
Mr. Chairman, Minister, ladies and gentlemen. When Brother Con Higgins arrived at St. Senan's Primary School in 1985, he discovered that vandalism was common and the boys suffered from low self-esteem and poor motivation. Soon this situation became history. First of all, he organised various fundraising events to purchase table tennis equipment. He then volunteered in his own time to run 15 hours of coaching sessions per week. He entered and transported boys, often at his own expense, into tournaments throughout the country. In the space of 3 years, St. Senan's boys progressed from raw novices to All-Ireland Schools champions at under-13 level. Con is also an active administrator in the game, presently chairman of the Limerick Schools Association, former Munster branch member, and currently secretary of the Irish Junior Management. The rest of his achievements, or at least some of them, are recorded in the programme. As a geography teacher, I tell my students the backbone of the Irish economy is agriculture, but the heart and lungs of the nation are its young people. In the last few years, the respiratory disease of the nation's body has not been caused by smog, but by youth migration. But I can say with conviction that in the parish of St. Mary's, there are 60 to 100 boys who have been resuscitated by a continuous flow of oxygen, fed and pumped with vigour, dedication, commitment and caring by Brother Con Higgins, which, if repeated by people of the same calibre, working with youths throughout all the parishes of the nation, would guarantee a healthy and vigorous nation not only in sporting activities, but also in all other aspects of life. I feel safe with him beside me tonight in his blazer, because I can guarantee you, quoting the rock band Meatloaf, that when he puts on that tracksuit and he carries that table tennis bat, he's like a bat out of hell. So finally, Con, I'm thrilled that you are getting some recognition for all your good work. Congratulations, and I hope you keep it up. Thank you.
Our next award is for community games. The recipient has been known to me for many, many years, and no more worthy person to receive the award than Eddie McCarthy. I call him Jean Cunningham to read the citation.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, Gerry mentioned earlier on about somebody stealing one of his lines, and he has just done it on me when he mentioned Eddie as a worthy recipient. I've known Eddie for something like 15 years, and I can remember him very well getting my own sons involved in soccer in the Ardú Highfield area, both for the soccer club there and in community games. And an abiding memory of him is seeing himself and his brothers indeed very frequently gathering youngsters and transporting them all around the county very frequently. Now the citation, he's receiving this for his enormous contribution to the Limerick Community Games, and just to give you some idea of what he's done, he joined the Community Games first in 1975 in Ardú Highfield. In 76 he was appointed Vice Chairman of the Community Games in Ardú Highfield, and in 77 became Games Secretary of Limerick Community Games. The following year he took on the job of Games Director for Limerick Community Games, and he held that post until 1980, when he was elected to the Games Committee at national level. In 82 he became a delegate to the Munster Community Games and was then quickly elected Secretary. 83 saw him moving to the position of PRO for Munster Community Games, and in 85-6 he acted as Secretary of Limerick County Community Games. 87 he was appointed Development Officer for Limerick Community Games, and since 88 he has held the post of Games Director for Limerick Community Games, in addition to his post as Secretary of the Munster Community Games. Now, in addition, Eddie has represented the Community Games on the City Sports Advisory Body from 85 to date. Now, we're all aware of the tremendous work the Community Games has done throughout the country. Very many of our very prominent athletes at the moment have come through the Community Games organisation. The cold statistics I've read out, well, maybe not so cold, but the statistics don't really do justice, I think, to the sheer amount of time and effort that Eddie has given and continues to give. He has recently done a very comprehensive report on the community games, which I know the chairman feels will shape the future format of the games and increase the numbers both of individuals taking part and the numbers of areas taking part. Community games generally operate during the summer months as far as the children taking part are concerned, but Eddie is involved more or less throughout the year on the planning and organising of them. He is a most worthy recipient, and I'm very pleased to be able to speak on his behalf tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Eddie McCarthy.
The next discipline to be honoured is basketball. To read a citation, we have Alan Shaw, and to receive the award, Michael Marrinan.
Michael Marrinan is to me the epitome of the Sports Service Awards. In winning the award for basketball, I understand that he has only briefly played the game, but is involved very much at the working end. His interest developed when his children began to play, and from an early stage he was not content to be an onlooker. Realising that without organisation a club will founder, he set out to provide a strong backing force for the Marathon Basketball Club. He was instrumental in organising the Parents' Committee which runs the club on a day-to-day basis, and has been to the forefront in the fundraising activities which keeps the club solvent. And he also arranges sponsorship for tournaments and events. He is currently chairman of the club, which is highly successful. At present, the ladies' senior team is competing in Division 1 of the National League, and the men's team in Division 2 of the National League and Division 1 of the Cork Senior League. However, it is among the juniors, those who will become the seniors of the future, where his enthusiasm has most effect, as well as encouraging parents to get involved in coaching and administration. He spends many hours at the thankless but very necessary task of driving teams around the country to events. As well as his devotion to marathon, Michael has worked to bring basketball to new areas of the city, and is a very hard-working and efficient supporter, in the best sense of that word, of the game. Michael thoroughly deserves the Cospoir Sports Service Award for basketball.
The next discipline to be recognised by the Sports Service Award Committee is badminton. To read the citation, I call him Mary Costello, and to receive the award, I call him Pat O'Brien.
Ladies and gentlemen, please bear with me, but being only one of two females on our committee, I have to keep the side up, so I'm here to do two citations. I'm particularly pleased to do it because it is for my own sport and for somebody whom I've known for about 10 years. Pat got involved in badminton, I would say about 10 years ago, maybe wrong, but about that. And to my mind, he is aptly described as an unsung hero. He is a quite unassuming man, but yet one who can be depended on to get the job done no matter what difficulties have to be surmounted. Pat lives in Adair and started playing in the club there. He shortly got involved in the administration of the club and was nominated to represent it at the Limerick County Badminton Association. Shortly afterwards, Paddy Marrinan, Senior, who was a former winner of one of these awards, retired as treasurer of the association, and Pat stepped into the void and is currently in that post. Like all sports, finance is a major source of concern, and Pat spends many hours looking after the accounts of the association and methods of raising finance. He is responsible for the coaching of all county teams from underage to senior level, and this means he has to book halls for competitions, reserve accommodation, organise transport, purchase trophies as necessary. He spends at least 2 nights a week coaching the under 14 and under 18 levels and is coordinator of all county teams. Pat, together with Mary Kelly, is very involved in running the Limerick Schools competition, and last weekend saw the largest ever entry involved, which indicates a healthy future for the game. Teams from Skull Carmel, Laurel Hill, St Clements, Christian Brothers, Kilmallock, Hospital and Crescent Comprehensive were represented. Pat spends most weekends during the playing season, which runs officially from the end of August to the end of April, but sometimes goes further, running various county and Munster championships, often travelling long distances and using his own car to transport players all over the country. He is the Limerick County delegate to the Munster branch and started the underage squad training sessions at interprovincial level. At present, he is the selector and manager of the under-16 interprovincial team. Adair has always been the home of badminton in Limerick, due mainly to the coaching of people like Paddy Marrinan and Brother Duane. And it is great to see a young lad from the village, Tommy Reid, being named as a possible member of the American team for the next Olympics, when badminton becomes part of the Games for the first time. However, with people like Pat O'Brien continuing the tradition of organising and coaching, then I don't think it would be too long until we have players from this area representing Ireland at Olympic level. Pat O'Brien, truly deserving of an award.
The next discipline we call on is soccer, and to receive the award in the discipline of soccer is William O'Brien. To read the citation is Captain Michael Egan, so if you would please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, the man whom I introduced to you now, William O'Brien, has a very long pedigree in sports in Limerick. I've been assured by the soccer fraternity in the city that it won't be held against him if I mention the fact that he is a nephew of Tom Clifford, whom, as most Limerick people know, was a well-known Irish international prop for many years. William O'Brien has given well in excess of 20 years service to soccer. He began in the Pike Rovers soccer club, well-known soccer club in the city. He played initially and then went on to administer in the club. He went from there to the LDMC, which, as most people know locally, organises all the junior soccer in Limerick, which is extremely strong, one of the strongest cities in the country when it comes to junior soccer. He has been treasurer of that organisation for close on 20 years. To give you an idea of some of the work he has done, he has raised funds all told in excess of £165,000. He has bought Priory Park for the LDMC. He's been a main initiator in raising the funds for it. At the time it cost £10,000, and in those days that was a sizable sum of money. Not alone that, but he has gone ahead and erected a new stand, dressing rooms, meeting room. He's erected a wall around the pitch, concrete works plus terracing 3 steps around the pitch. Now this cost in total £135,000, which to this man's credit as treasurer, the debt is completely cleared at the bank. And not alone that, but most would be satisfied enough with that work in hand. He went ahead and organised and pushed for a lighting system for the park. This costs in excess of £30,000. It is a great claim to fame for the LDMC that they are the only amateur league committee in the country that actually own their own spotlit park. A feat which many professional clubs or League of Ireland clubs would be indeed proud. All of this, and I would say almost without contradiction, at least 90%, and I would say all, is down to this particular man. In addition to this, right, he has acted as a very prominent referee in both junior and underage soccer. He is chairman of the Munster Football Association and is a representative on the FAI Junior Council. This man surely can have no spare time. But I am informed that in his spare time, little that he must have, that he enjoys playing 45. I was told that also that I was to quell a rumour that he is a shark at poker. This is not true. Not alone does he do all this work, but like most of our recipients here, he's an unassuming man, does not take the limelight himself. The city is indebted to him, as indeed I'm sure the country, and he is extremely well supported tonight by the soccer fraternity, who all came to praise him, celebrate his nomination with him, and I would like to join in that, and you to join me in promoting the Sports Service Award for this very deserving nominee. Thank you.
Next discipline we call on is athletics. The recipient is John Sheehy, and the reader of the citation is Paddy O'Connell.
Chairman, honoured guests, Minister, ladies and gentlemen, you will all have read the citation of John, and I can assure you that it is completely without exaggeration. This man is dedicated to the sport of athletics and to his club, and how he finds the time to do so is a mystery to me. He's a very busy farmer, making about 30 cows or more, and you know how time consuming this is. He also helps rear a very large family. I believe it's 11 at the last count. So he is a busy man. John Sheehy started the Bilbao Athletic Club in 1983, and since then it has gone on to be one of the best clubs in Munster, as well as this year it was voted the best cross-country, juvenile cross-country club in Ireland, and this is mainly due to the commitment and dedication of John. 6 years ago he approached the schools in the area with the intention of forming a club. At first meeting he had 6, 2 of these were his own, and now the number has over 40. Gradually the numbers grew, and they trained here and there, and John realised that if they were to improve they should have their own grounds. So he found an old unused gravel pit, 4 acres of overgrown brambles, battered cars, etc. in the heart of Bilbao, and they got it from the council with financial help from the people in the area, and with buckets and trailers and shovel and 10 bags of grass seed. John worked day in and day out until there were 4 acres of lush grass, and then the problem came how to keep the grass down. So what John did was he bought 10 sheep. I believe we took a for the 10 sheep. And you all have seen the horrific ad. It's a kind of a cartoon in the paper about sheep worrying. It's not a problem in Bilbao because the local dogs have long since given up trying to catch these sheep. Rumour has it that from watching John, they have now in Bilbao the world's first sub-4 minute sheep. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you, with pride, one of the most dedicated recipients of this prestigious award, John Sheehy.
That concludes the roll of honour for the individual recipients. Last but by no means least is the citation for a lifetime of service to sport. And it is my pleasure and privilege to do the citation for Mrs. Cecil Reid for her enthusiasm and dedication and hard work both on and off the field for hockey. It has been said of her that she promotes and encourages hockey virtually 24 hours a day. She is involved and has been involved for a long number of years at both national and local level. Her work for Munster, which extends over a period of 32 years, seemed to be at an end until when she resigned from the Munster Hockey Committee, only to find that she was made an honorary life member. She was a member of the only Irish, or the only Limerick junior club ever to bring the junior hockey trophy to Limerick when she played with Institute. She has a past president of the Irish Ladies Hockey Union, 1978 being the year. She has been a Munster school selector and indeed an Irish selector for 22 years on and off. One shudders to think of the amount of work and hard work and dedication that went into 2 decades for her involvement at that level. She spent most of her time involved in promoting club hockey and schoolgirls hockey. She was president at national level, and as national president has represented Ireland on numerous occasions abroad, notably in Canada, the United States and Germany. Not alone has she been involved in hockey, but as some of you will have guessed from her married name, she is involved with rugby also. As Lady President of the Gerry Ladies Committee. She is from a family that is steeped in sport. Her husband, who is down here, Paddy Reid, was a member of the Irish Triple Crown winning team in 1948. Also present with us is her son-in-law, Pat Whelan, who was a member of the Irish Rugby Football Union team for a number of years. It is my great privilege to call on the Minister for Industry and Commerce, Mr. Des O'Malley, to present Mrs. Reid with her award for a lifetime of service to sport. Mrs. Reid. Now, you have been very patient and we won't detain you that much longer. However, there are other speakers, and in our involvement during the year in sport, we promote the Cospoir 10, and where possible we designate a charity or a worthy cause as the recipients of whatever monies we collect. Now, for the last 2 years, it has been Milford House that has been the beneficiary, and I would like to call on Sister Norbert to say a few words to us, and maybe she would like to, maybe in the process, do a little bit of canvassing and ask you if you would be prepared to help her in her fundraising activities during the coming year. Sister Norbert from Milford House.
Minister, Mr. Minister, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, friends of Milford Hospice. Before saying anything about the hospice, I think you all know what it's all about at this stage anyway. You do know because your generosity, which we have experienced during the last several years, is tremendous and much appreciated by all of us in Milford. I just couldn't tell you. I'm sure you all individually, at one time or another, through all our fundraising activities, have responded to our appeals. Your generosity have helped us, in the first place, to open the doors of the hospice to people who are terminally ill. And to keep those doors open, your generosity is ongoing, and we need it so. To keep the doors open to the rich and poor, to young and old, to those who come in faith and those who have none. The doors are open to all, and we know that they will remain open because of your generosity. So while I'm making an appeal for you to please help us to continue that service which we have begun, and which can only continue through your generosity, through your response to our appeals. And I thank you, one and all, for your great support. God bless you all.
Now, we come to the final award, and that is the presentation of the Christy O'Brien Perpetual Trophy. So if I could have Tony Driscoll and Mrs. Kathleen O'Brien, please. And I will again ask the Minister if he would do us the honours in presenting the prize. Would Peter Hogan, who again was the person who collected most in the run, would he please come forward?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Friends of Milford Hospice, I am very happy to be here this evening, and I would like to express our gratitude to Limerick Sports Advisory Body for their very kind invitation. First, let me congratulate Peter Hogan for the tremendous contribution that he made in being the biggest contributor of sponsorship money to the funds of Milford Hospice. This, I understand, is the second year on which he has won this Christy O'Brien Trophy, and I would ask you to put your hands together and give him a big round of applause, please. Let me also congratulate all the award winners here tonight. Not being a sportsman myself, I really envy their achievements. I would just like to thank all the participants in the Limerick Cospoir 10 for their efforts in 1989 on behalf of our hospice. As Sister Norbert has just told you, The sisters at Milford do tremendous work for the terminally ill, and without your support, this work could not go on. Before I conclude, there are a number of people here present who helped us greatly with the Cospoir 10, namely Mary Costello, here on my right, our chairman here tonight, Gerry Burke, and Paddy O'Connell. I would also like to mention Marrinan, who helped in getting the prizes together for the winners. We look forward to your continued support in the future. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, it now falls to me to bring the formal aspect of this evening's proceedings to a close. Before doing so, I would like to beg your indulgence just for 5 minutes. I would like to record our thanks to Mr. Desmond O'Malley, TD, Minister for Industry and Commerce, for being with us here tonight. We realise that his time is indeed valuable, and we appreciate the fact that he was able to be in our midst this evening to pay tribute to you, the Sports Service Award recipients. To Maurice O'Kelly, Chief Executive Officer, Limerick City VEC, I say a sincere thank you for your continued unquestioning confidence in all our ventures. Ron Delaney has long since attained the status, as I said, of a living legend among the athletic fraternity. He has always been a source of encouragement and inspiration to us in our efforts on behalf of Cospoir, the National Sports Council. He has never once omitted or refused to be with us, and it is indeed an honour and a privilege to have him begin with us on this occasion. Thank you very much indeed, Ron. Former Commissioner Eamon O'Doherty was due to be here with us this evening, but unfortunately took ill, and we wish him well. It is the first such occasion that he has missed in all the years that we have known him, and I'm sure you join with me in wishing him well and a speedy recovery to health. I would like to thank Pat McDonough for the use of the facilities in the college area. I am sure you will agree, as I've already said, that the juries here excel themselves here tonight in the meal they put before us. And again, let me mention that our musicians were first class, and they will recommence playing as soon as we get the tables cleared from here. We are deeply indebted to them. It certainly adds a dimension to the occasion to have nice, well-played background music. To those who support the people in the background, the wives, husbands, friends, I say a sincere thank you. I would like to thank the adjudicators for sticking with a very difficult job. And indeed, every member of the Limerick Sports Advisory Body deserves our thanks for all their help during the year. None more so than Mary Costello here. Whose unfailing enthusiasm and dedication to the job in hand is what keeps us all on our toes. All the literature which you have now and which you have received to date is all Mary's work. Very few people it is you will meet who will take holiday time and use it as Mary has done in preparation for tonight's function, because that's exactly what she has done. The Limerick City Sports Advisory Body is indeed indebted to her. within the sporting fraternity, there's a great spirit of ecumenism, a great depth of goodwill, and nowhere is that more so evident than in Limerick. A pity it is then that parents and more adults do not recognise this fact. There is nothing as frustrating as meeting the apathetic parent who feels for some reason or another that he or she is doing you a favour by letting his son or daughter play on your team. Parents badly need to be shaken out of their complacency and made to realise the immense value, as already mentioned by the Minister, to be had from participation in sport. Never has the need been greater to involve our youth in an active and healthy lifestyle. Too often we bemoan the fact when we see our youth in their early teens falling into the habit of what I would term the deadly drug culture, be it in the form of taking hard drugs or consuming alcohol in large quantities, or whatever. It would be very naive of us not to recognise that there are very powerful forces at work which entice the younger generation away to a so-called glamour lifestyle. In many instances, it would seem with the active or passive help of parents and adults in general. Indeed, it would appear that some parents in this respect have more money than sense. You, by your work in the field of sport, have continued to counter these unhealthy influences. You deserve our heartfelt thanks, as indeed do all others in the area of sport promotion. Now the question remains, can we change attitudes? It seems to me that we can, and that a National Sports Council, Cospoir in other words, would be the ideal vehicle for such an operation. Now, Cospoir, well, we might ask whatever became of, there's a series at the moment, we might ask at times whatever became of Cospoir, because, you know, if it hasn't been dead, officially at least, for the last 2 years, it has certainly been in a comatose state. Though one might add on the life support machinery of the funds generated by the National Lottery. Since its inception in 1987, the National Lottery, we are told, has raised in excess of 120 million for the Exchequer. Quite a sizable percentage of that figure is mapped for development of sport and sporting facilities. This the Minister has already referred to, and glad we are to hear that Limerick is one of the areas so designated. The National Lottery is a concept which was mooted by the sporting organisations for many years before finally becoming a reality in 1987. Cospoir, on the other hand, the National Sports Council, had been in existence for quite a number of years up to the summer of '98, when its term of office for that period had expired. To my knowledge, it has not been reconstituted to date, even though Ron Delaney, who was chairman, continues to act for the sports advisory bodies who call on his services throughout the country. It is a matter for conjecture as to why it has been not been reactivated. However, it is a matter of fact that millions have come on stream in the meantime for sport. Could it be that such a body is no longer deemed necessary, and if so, by whom? Whatever the reason for its disappearance, officially at least, I now call for the reconstitution of Cospoir, the National Sports Council, and for the development of sport to be put back in the hands of sports people. I thank you for your consideration and your patience. I thought that this year we might do it a little bit more quickly than we did last year, but again it took us exactly an hour and a quarter. I thank you for your forbearance. Please enjoy yourself for the rest of the night. It's not over, it is just beginning. Thank you one and all. Now, it should be recorded and it should be noticed before we disperse that we owe a great debt of gratitude to the media, especially to local radio, in the persons of Tony McMahon, Lendenine and Ronnie Long, to RTE in the person of Mr. Michael Lally, to Limerick Leader in the person of Dermot Lynch and Paddy Maroney, and the Cock Examiner to Tony Purcell and Claire Clancy, and indeed to Peter Hare of the Evening Press. I thank you one and all for being so good to us. Now, while the tables are being cleared away, it is customary that we get a group photograph of the recipients, the award recipients, out in the entrance of the hotel, in the entrance to the hotel. And it has always been our intention also to get a photograph of the sports advisory body, and to this date we never managed to get everybody together. So would you stay at hand there, and would the award recipients please go out first for a group photograph? Thank you.
Hello, how are you? Great memory, that's a long time ago now. You must be very young.
Thank God for these ones. As you can imagine, with the session Saturday night. It's great atmosphere. And to meet yourself. Very well.
If Michael
could expand.
Oh, I have. They're gone sort of oh, I'm there every Friday and Saturday. Only some of them say. Family coming on tonight, Mary? Say.